get you more detail on that main story this lunchtime, because attempts by the African Transformation Movement for a secret ballot to go ahead tomorrow when MPs gather to vote on the adoption of the Phala Phala report have been thwarted. The party had asked the National Assembly Speaker, Newzroom Afrika Zungula, for the secret vote when MPs decide whether or not President Ramaphosa should face impeachment proceedings. This latest development comes as President Ramaphosa is still facing pressure even from within his own ANC to resign. The independent panel found that Ramaphosa may have violated the constitution and his oath of office in the handling of the theft of foreign currency, more than $500,000 worth, from his game farm in Limpopo back in 2020. Let's speak now to the ATM leader, Vuyolwethu Zungula, who's joining us. A very good afternoon to you. So grateful for your time. So the speaker saying no to your request for a secret ballot. Does this dash your hopes that indeed that report will be adopted tomorrow?
Not at all. Look, would have loved a secret ballot based on the reasons that we've articulated in our communication to the Speaker, that we are, as a country, are divided on the matter, and the situation that we find ourselves in is so polarized and to an extent whereby political party members are protesting against one another. However, we're not going to go to war on this matter, because what we view this is actually a blessing in disguise, in the sense that tomorrow, the citizens will actually see which MPs are actually against, Parliament doing its work, because that's what's going to happen tomorrow is actually a vote whether to establish a committee that will further probe what transpired in Phala Phala through, hearing oral evidence from everyone, the police, people from the border gates, everyone. Now, any MP that votes against that must be known in public that this person is actually anti, the accountability and oversight role of Parliament. This person is actually for the abuse of state resources. He's for corrupt practices. So that is what we are viewing this as a blessing in disguise.
Well, the latest coming out of the NWC, at least from various reporters who've been speaking to their sources, was that the ANC's National Working Committee has basically decided that the line of march for the party's MPs tomorrow is to vote against the adoption of this report. And when you look at the numbers, how would you as the opposition be able to pull it off if, let's say, tomorrow all ANC MPs follow the instruction from the top?
What that means, if the ANC MPs tomorrow are voting against a motion to further probe, to further investigate, or to have an inquiry, it means the citizens will actually know that the ANC is actually against, oversight, is actually for lawlessness. It is for people that are going to be above the law. And as opposition, we are not going to relent. Even that report, should it not be adopted tomorrow, then it means we can even go to court. There is no way a court can actually, agree with that resolution that would be taken in Parliament. You'll recall when in the past years, when Parliament took a resolution in that particular Nkandla report, and when it went to court, the court stated that the Parliament actually failed in its obligation when it adopted such a resolution. Therefore, if Parliament tomorrow rejects a resolution that says probe this matter further, in our view, Parliament would have failed its constitutional obligation of oversight and accountability.
What then will you do? Say the vote fails to pass for the adoption of the report. What's your next step? Will you then go to court to challenge the outcome of that vote, even though people would have voted whichever way they want?
No, definitely people would not have voted which other way they want, because it would have meant that members of the particular party are instructed by their party to vote a particular direction. The manner in which we can ascertain whether people voted the manner in which they want or not, it is when there's a secret ballot. In the absence of a secret ballot and in the presence of a party direction, it means people, members of Parliament, have been imposed to as to how they need to vote. So we're going to sit down and explore all avenues, but we're not discounting or counting out that we can go to court based on the legal advice that we can get from our legal team.
So I'm a bit confused, because earlier in the first response you said that you don't believe that members of the ANC, for example, towing the party line, let's say, so to speak, or the denial, in fact, is what we're talking about, of a secret ballot would dampen any chances of this report being adopted. Now you're saying that you believe that, for example, people will be voting on a party line and they would have been instructed, right? With that in mind, what is the next? I know I asked you about the legal process, but what do you think can happen politically to put further pressure on the ANC? Because if it doesn't turn on its president, you still need numbers. Will you lobby ANC MPs, for instance, to help you get this through?
Look, the message we are sending to all 400 members of parliament is that tomorrow is a watershed moment in our country where MPs have an opportunity to stay in the right side of our history when they vote that all public representatives, particularly the head of state, must be held accountable and their actions must be subject to scrutiny. If those MPs tomorrow vote against the president actually being scrutinized, it means those MPs, they want South Africa to fail. They want to have a South Africa where you have certain people that are above the law and the law does not apply to everyone. So what I stated earlier, that people, when there is a secret ballot, those people will definitely vote in accordance with their to their conscience. However, when they are given when they are dictated via a party directive, then those people, MPs, cannot be said that they voted the manner in which they want because they were instructed to vote in a particular matter. So that's what we are saying as the ATM, that tomorrow we hope that members, all members of parliament will be brave enough to actually realize the importance of voting to further inquire what happened in Phala Phala and not vote against actually parliament doing its work and parliament playing an oversight role over the executive.
Just on that then, today we're also hearing that as the opposition parties, I know the DA has written a letter through its chief whip, Vuyolwethu, making this request. Julius Malema also confirming that the opposition parties in the main also want an in-person voting process, basically for everyone to be there to vote in person. Currently, the sittings have been happening in a hybrid fashion, some MPs in the House, others joining virtually. If the vote does not happen in person, would that, in the ATM's view, dent the credibility of the outcome?
Look, the manner in which that is proposed that the voting will be done tomorrow, we do not agree with it wholeheartedly, because tomorrow what they basically want to do, one person from the ANC, which is their chief whip, will stand up and say, I, Pemi Majodina, representing the ANC, there's so many of us in the House, and so many of us in the virtual platform, this is how we vote. The same thing goes to the DA, EFF, and all of the other parties. We believe that way is not consistent with the rules of parliament, is not consistent with the principle of voting, because it effectively means one member is voting on behalf of other members. We want a case whereby each member on their own must state that I, Vuyolwethu Zungula, I'm voting for the report to be adopted, not a case whereby someone will vote on my behalf. And also we do agree that the sitting must be held physically, so that we do not have members of parliament that are going to be held up in some hotel and they are going to be intimidated by their party as to this is how they must vote. Members must be under the protection of parliament, so they vote in accordance to their conscience and they vote right and they vote to support the consideration of the report tomorrow. Our
reporter at Tongana was saying that the DA's request for manual balloting to happen has already been turned down. So what now?
There's going to be a meeting before the session tomorrow with the Speaker. This is where we are going to discuss all of those things. But the view from opposition parties is that the sitting must be physical and the voting must be manual. There must not be a member that is going to vote on behalf of other members. So in the meeting with the Speaker, all of those issues will be ventilated, and opposition parties are united to say members of parliament must be protected from being intimidated by their bosses, because the issue that we're facing, it is of a national importance that requires members of parliament not to be intimidated, as this issue it has got a daring effect on our state of democracy and our constitution.
Will the opposition, lastly, Mr. Zungula, prevent the sitting from going ahead or the vote from going ahead if Parliament does not change its mind on the issue of manual voting?
We are going to discuss as opposition tomorrow. I can't alone speak on behalf of the opposition. The opposition, which is 11 parties, are going to caucus tomorrow, and we are going to agree as to the way forward.
Vuyolwethu Zungula, leader of the African Transformation Movement, grateful for your time, sir. Thank you.